The Hexagonal Phase was the sixth and final phase of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy radio series. Dirk Maggs, the man behind the radio series from Tertiary onwards, had attempted to make a sixth phase twice beforehand, but both attempts failed for various reasons. However, as the series was reaching its 40th anniversary, Dirk decided to give the sixth radio series another go. But under one condition. The Hexagonal Phase was to be based on the sixth Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy novel, and another thing, by Eoin Colfer. As the sixth book was not written by Douglas Adams, it meant that a straight adaptation would mean that no material from Douglas Adams would be directly used. Dirk Maggs decided that if he was going to make a sixth series, he wanted to incorporate as much unused Douglas Adams material as possible. So, in addition to fixing many of the issues with And Another Thing, namely removing many of the out-of-character moments of the main cast, Dirk Maggs tasked Douglas Adams' archivist, Kevin Jon Davies, with finding as much unused/scrapped Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy material written by Douglas Adams which could be reworked into the Hexagonal Phase. This meant that, despite the phase still being based on the overall story of Eoin Colfer's book, the Hexagonal Phase ended up thankfully feeling more in line with the previous Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy phases. No doubt thanks to containing many lines and scenes directly written by Douglas Adams. Unfortunately, the Hexagonal Phase, unlike the prior 5 radio series, has not received a scriptbook release, which would provide notes on what lines and sections were reworked bits from Douglas Adams. However, a large amount of these unused Douglas Adams bits have been released elsewhere. Neil Gaiman's Don't Panic features many of the deleted scenes and lines from the radio series, and Jim Roberts' The Frood contains a large chunk of deleted/unused passages from the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy books. Many of the scrap scenes and passages by Douglas Adams from these books were what was reworked into Hexagonal. This video will show off the many scrap bits of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy books and radio series, and how they were reworked into the Hexagonal Phase. Remember, share and enjoy. Taken from the scrap section on The Consultant, In Life, the Universe, and Everything, Arthur's celebrity status after the publication of his diary, and his fate as an old man, was reworked into describing his life in the Guide Mark II construct.
Arthur Dent, meanwhile, has become something of a celebrity and a recluse. The publication of his diaries some time ago caused a considerable stir. Resisting the temptation of the 5D chat show circuit, Arthur has preferred to spend his life in quiet seclusion. He has built a small cottage for himself on a beach, in the shadow of the remote monastery of the Holy Lunching Friars of Vunden. He is often visited there by historians and students, to whom he insists that he hasn't really done anything, that he is more differed from than differing, more happened to than happening. Arthur's hair is grey and thinning. His face is worn and lined by a life of almost continual astonishment, but softened by philosophy and herbal cream, both supplied by the Holy Friars. Their choir can be heard from his cottage, singing of the ineluctability of this, the inconsequence of that, the incomprehensibility of the other, the futility of worrying about any of it, and the desirability of a really good lunch. As the setting suns light the wavelets in the bay and twinkle on the china teapot on his bistro table, the casual observer can be forgiven for thinking Arthur, wearing his threadbare dressing gown, enjoying the sunset on his veranda, looks not unlike an old man sitting outside a shack.
Marvin's reunion with Arthur in the scrap notes of Mostly Harmless, at the Feast of the Assumption of Saint Zalabad, was reworked into the meaning once again in the Guide Mark II construct.
Can I help you?
If you can, it'll be at first.
Marvin?
Don't stand up. I'm not worth the bother.
How... something or other to see you. What's the word I want? Nice. How nice to see you. Yes.
No, it's not. It never is. I think you ought to know I'm feeling very depressed.
I'm horribly confused. Our last encounter concluded with me laying your terminally rusted remains to rest in the dust of the planet Sevorbiupstri.
Yes, and fighting the impulse to say good riddance as you did so.
Of course not. Mostly. But here you are, good as new. So, how have you been then?
Quiet, obedient, and desperate.
I'm sorry to hear that.
No, you're not.
It is you, isn't it?
Oh, it's me, all right. Can't you tell?
It wasn't so much the change in appearance as the irrepressible jollity that was throwing me.
Just because I'm 10,000 times more intelligent than you think that every time I make a remark I'm trying to make you feel miserable.
No, I don't.
Well, you should do, because I am.
A scrapped comment about the heart of gold being made into teaspoons in episode 5 of the primary phase was reworked into Marvin's old body being made into teaspoons in the Guide Mark II construct.
So what happened?
They uploaded my genuine people personality into a refurbished Sirius Cybernetics body. It was propping a door open in the cleaning department.
No more pain in all the diodes down your left-hand side.
No. But I've worked out that if I stick my left arm in my right ear, I can electrocute myself.
Good grief. What happened to your old body?
It's in milliways.
What, waiting tables? Washing cars?
No. They had it made into teaspoons.
Oh.
Wretched, isn't it?
The entire story of Baggy the Runch, from the scrap Mostly Harmless notes, was reworked into one of John Lloyd's guide entries.
The history of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is one of vision, idealism, struggle, passion, greed, success, failure, and enormously long lunch breaks. The earliest origins of the guide are now lost in the mists of time, but most of the surviving stories speak of an early editor called Baggy the Runch. The story of Baggy the Runch is a very instructive one. Baggy the Runch was born on the remotest of frontier planets, which had been reached by the last straggling pioneers of the third great outpush, who had spent over 20 years hard travel getting there. It was called Now What and was very good for being cold and wet on, and one of the few planets in the galaxy to have its own motto, which goes like this: "Even traveling despondently is better than arriving here." The major activities on Now What consisted of catching, skinning, and eating Now Whattian bog hogs, and only the skinning was in any way easy. There was a lot of shivering too. That was very popular on Now What, largely because the Now Whattian bog hog fur skins were unaccountably thin. It was into a world of this kind that Baggy was born, and almost immediately abandoned, with nothing to his name but his name, Baggy the Runch. With a name like that, he discovered that he couldn't cope with being introduced to people, and therefore never had any friends who might have helped him cope with some of the other things in life, like the cold, the wet, and the bog hog bites. So he ran off into the swamps, where he was brought up incredibly painfully by bog hogs. The result of this was that now no one could bear to be introduced to him. His life was, therefore, thoroughly miserable. One day, Baggy the Runch was sloshing around aimlessly in a field near Now What's grim little spaceport when he came across a discarded copy of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy lying in a puddle. He picked it up and turned it over and over, staring at it in astonishment. Here was something the like of which he had never encountered before. Here was something that hinted at a whole galaxy of opportunities he should go out and seize as soon as possible. Most immediately, though, here was something he could hold over his head to keep the rain off. Anyone who thinks that a data pad some 6 inches by 4 inches would not keep off a great deal of rain simply has no idea how much rain there was on Now What. And in much the same way, Arthur Dent is about to have his perceptions radically shifted as he pops into existence in what appears to be a room made of sky.
Arthur's Reverie, a cut section from the original The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy novel, is quite seamlessly reworked into a scene of about the same context in Hexagonal.
Feeling he has nothing to offer this conversation, Arthur retreats into a reverie. There is, he thinks, a fascination in pure technology, in machines which turn events into other events. Man comes naked into his world, and after thousands of years, he begins to notice that things don't happen by accident, but obey precise physical laws. When a drop of rain falls, it falls at a rate of acceleration governed by its own mass, by the mass of the planet it is falling towards, and modified precisely by the friction of the air it is falling through. The raindrop is not making it up as it goes along. It is being governed by its puppet masters, the laws of physics. Man notices this, and it occurs to him that he can take a hand. If water falls and then, by following the path of least resistance, flows, if he hangs an upright wooden wheel in the flowing water, the wheel will turn. If he then connects that wheel to two large stones and puts his corn between the two wheels, he can grind it into flour to make his bread. If he ignores the water and the stones and simply puts the corn straight in the oven, he might end up with something he could eat in the cinema but not spread his butter on. If he ignores the whole lot, he would die of starvation. As the centuries pass, man learns to manipulate the paths of least resistance through which natural forces are bound to flow. Then one day he builds something that has so many things connected in such complicated ways to so many other different things that he only has to press a button and the whole lot launches itself straight up into the sky for exactly the same fundamental reasons that a drop of rain is falling out of it. Arthur feels pleased with himself for this thought, and he notices an invitingly large red button on a nearby panel.
Would it help if I pressed this button?
No! We can't engage the infinite improbability drive that's close to a gravity well.
Zarking Fardwalk, Zaphot's finally read the manual.